diabolical. I thought, as you touched on, Pat, we'd given them a few more than a few chances. It didn't help in that Dundee game that we lost Jason Denier to a bit of an injury, and Effie came on, and he had an absolute nightmare. Effie's again the type of player that divides the fans, and some love him, some hate him, some have got no time for him. Others, he's one of those lovable characters. You want to love him, but my God, he can give you palpitations at times. But in that Dundee game, he'd made a few errors, and he was certainly, I think, one of the guys that was at fault for the Dundee goal. So straight away, going through my mind, of course, watching that was the upcoming game against Red Bull, and we know that they've been scoring goals for fun in that competition, and domestically as well. So you add up all those ingredients, and I just could see no way that if we continue to play the way we were, that we'd be able to get any kind of result out of that game. Now, you can say what you like about it being at Celtic Park. I had to laugh when I was watching the new channel that they've got over here in Oz. They've bought over Setanta Sports, so it's BN Sports they're called. I believe it is a channel that broadcasts elsewhere around the world. I don't know, is it in Asia or whatever, but
it's Al Jazeera, I believe. Al Jazeera sort of network.
Right, okay, but they were doing the coverage, and part of the in studio team was Trevor Francis, and he was kind of summarising as it went across to Celtic Park, and he's talking about the one thing the Red Bull won't have experienced is this full house at Celtic Park, and one thing's for sure, it'll be the biggest attendance out of any game in Europe tonight. And I mean, the camera's panning round, and you can see the top tier of the stands closed off. There's no fans in it at all. But so I don't quite know where he was getting that from. But just going into that game last night, they started off exactly the way I expected them to. We were caught cold, and how we could not have been prepared for that, I'll never know. I think 13 minutes gone or so, 15 minutes, and we were 2 goals down. And the only thing that was surprising me then was how quickly we did lose a couple of goals. But it honestly looked at that stage that it could have been an absolute embarrassment and a humping, because they seemed to be able to put the ball in the back of the net at will in those first 15 minutes. When we got our goal was completely against a run of play, completely out of the blue, I thought. I couldn't see it coming at all, but fair play to Johansson for sticking it away, because I think he took it really well, and he was getting closed down as well at the time. So I must admit, I couldn't believe we'd managed to get it back to 2-1. But from when that goal went in, it was a different game. We actually then started to control possession a little bit more. I wouldn't say we looked very dangerous for the rest of that first half, but we started to control possession a bit better. Yes, it was a bit huff and puff, and there was a few ricochets involved there, and there was a few kind of just long passes, long balls, and that kind of thing. But we certainly finished off the first half not too bad. Second half, I thought we had the majority of possession. We shaded it certainly in terms of the entire game, I think, but we did a lot better in the second half. So something must have been said for the players to step their game up a little bit. It's hard to say, did Red Bull take their foot off the gas? Maybe a little bit. It's too hard to say if they did or not. But I was certainly a lot happier with our attitude in the second half. Again, we created a few chances, but nothing really too clear cut that I can really remember. There was a few half chances created and a few decent chances, but no real sitters as such. So I was honestly quite pleased with the way the game kind of unfolded in the second half, and I thought we were a bit unlucky to lose that final third goal in the in injury time at the second half. I wouldn't say the result flattered Red Bull in any way, but it was just a little bit disappointing to lose it 3-1. But of course, by that time we knew we were going through anyway, because obviously Astra had managed to defeat Zagreb. In fact, a draw in that game would have been enough to see us through as well. So overall, it was a bit bizarre because pretty much when the game finished, I had to jump in the shower. That was me getting ready to go off to work. But I wasn't as downbeat as I thought I might have been.
That's probably because we qualified, though. It's kind of one of those.
And I think you're right, Pat, because I must admit, if I was putting a coupon, I didn't put any coupon on at all, but I thought there was a very good chance. I think I might have even said this in our last podcast, but I thought there was a very good chance of us losing our last two games and going out, because I thought Zagreb would have been strong enough to beat Astra, and then it was all down to our last game against them over there, and I wouldn't have been looking forward to that at all. But we can now look forward to that game and just enjoy it. We're under no pressure in that game, so it'd be nice to think that the players can go out. We can put a bit of a team out, knowing that we're going to be playing European football after Christmas, and hopefully, and again this is what we'll maybe just briefly touch on just now, hopefully that's the incentive to be able to attract a few more players in the transfer window, and possibly get Mr. John Guidetti to sign a contract with us, because it's certainly a carrot. It's not the biggest carrot, but it's certainly something rather than no European football after Christmas, that's for sure. Well, do you think it's going to make much of a difference to how we can operate in the transfer market come January, now that we've got that guaranteed European football, Liam?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, it's all about how the board wants to play it, isn't it? You know, if they're quite happy just to get to the last 32 and, you know, get one glamour tie off a Champions League team and get a tank in, then I don't see them spending any money at all. But if we really want to have it, because to be honest, see if we just get one or two players in, and the team just performs the way we know it can, we could give anybody in that tournament a game. I mean, you know, probably one of the strongest teams in the tournament at the moment is Spurs, and you know, I would fancy Celtic to give them a game if we played to our potential. You know, but I just don't see the board doing that. I just think that the biscuit tin mentality is here to stay. You know, I really think it's going to be a case of, well, we got to the last 32. You know, we've got to be realistic about Scottish football's position in world football and all the usual pish. You know, so I don't think we'll. No, I think if we do get beyond the last 32, it'll be because the players that we have now play above themselves. I don't think there'll be anybody new coming in. Yeah,
or that we've drawn a team as bad as us.
Aye, well, that's the other one.
I mean, Pat, do you think it'll have any bearing at all on what's going to happen in the January transfer window?
Look, it's not going to hurt with Guidetti. Certainly not. I mean, it depends, obviously, who comes in for him. And I think the guy personally is playing a blinder. I think he's playing us. To be honest with you, I think I said it in the last podcast. I'm not 100% convinced. I'm probably not as convinced as some people that it's a certain thing he's going to sign for us. I know they've agreed a fee with Man City and all that sort of stuff, but I'm not convinced by it. I think he's playing a smart game. He's scoring goals and that sort of stuff, and he's saying the right thing, and he's showing doing all pretty much the badge kisser kind of mentality, but and doing the right thing for the fans. But I reckon a better offer comes through, and whether that's Marseille or whoever else has been in for him, you never know. The coverage I watched this morning was from BT Sport. And before the game started, I saw the last 5 minutes of the Feyenoord game, and they were again same thing. The atmosphere was superb. The quality was just significantly better than what we could offer. Now, it's one of those things. Does he hang around and say, "Well, I can basically change the way the team play," or and potentially go somewhere, maybe get to the last 16. Who knows? Or do I want to go somewhere better and I'm just using these guys as a bit of a stepping stone. So he's obviously going to do what's right for him. But
yeah,
but for us, I mean, it certainly ain't going to hurt the fact that we've qualified, because at least it gives him a chance of playing European football, even between now and the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if a guy lets it, drag on until it gets to the summer, and then he makes his call at that point. But I'd love for us to sign him, and I could well be wrong. But and he might be playing as to the fact that he wants to stay, but it's one of those ones when Celtic get a bit desperate, they'll pay a bit more money. So, but just I was reading through stuff in the chat room. So the guys from Celtic Dreams are saying as well we missed Guidetti and Denier, and he said if we lose these players, then we'll be struggling. So, but the bold Connor G has said he reckons Ambrose played well last night. So I wouldn't say he played bad, but I think he was certainly to blame for I think was it the second goal. I think he was just ball watching, and his man peeled off.
Quickly settled, certainly, I think. But again, I think that's partly because he's not played a full game against Dundee. He was still kind of settling in. But to be honest to him, last night he did okay. He did a few decent things last night as well. He did a few errors and a few slip-ups, but he'd certainly improved from his Dundee performance, that's for sure. I must admit, when I saw his name in the team sheet and I saw Denier was out, I was questioning my 3-0 prediction. I was going to add another couple of goals onto theirs.
I still reckon, if you look at the ball coming over, he basically, I think the second goal, I'm sure it was the second goal, and he's just let his man just rock off him, and he'd be 3 yards away from him, and that was in the 6-yard box. He did nothing. There was no sort of instinct to get goal side or anything. So, like Connor said, bar one or two misplaced passes, which is normal effort, he done okay. I'm not sure I agree with you. Watch the second goal again and see how culpable he was for that. But Brendan Teehead's disagreeing, as are the guys from Celtic Dreams. God's sake, Connor, nearly fell off my seat laughing there at his comment. So, and Brendan Teehan's, and he was the same as me. He thought after 20-25 minutes it looked like a 5-0 drubbing, as I said. Big improvement in the second half. Denier, Guidetti and Lustig to come back. Need two signings in January. Get rid of Commons, Ambrose, Kyle and Beaton to release wages to pay for Guidetti. It's not a bad call really, but there's obviously a bit of talk on the coverage about Chris Commons as well, and should he be playing, but he came on, and in truth I don't remember him really doing anything.
No, and see, to be honest, that's been Chris Commons' season, all season. I think it was very disappointing at the start of the season in the Champions League qualifiers. I thought he was one of our most disappointing players, bearing in mind what he did for us last season. And he's not been that effective in the games or the match time that he has played this season. Now, some could say it's because he hasn't been given too much of a chance. There's definitely something up there between Commons and the new management team, I think, because he certainly doesn't seem to be too much in favour. But again, when he gets thrown into a game, you'd think he would take that opportunity to prove his doubters wrong in the management team potentially, but he's not really done it for me at all this season. He's been pretty disappointing.
Get on to Brian Flanagan's point then from Twitter when he's asked a question about thoughts about McGregor and Mulgrew. They need dropped. What about those two? I'll throw another one in the hat as well about Anthony Stokes. That again, maybe it's worth a separate sort of quick discussion, but essentially I don't know, this whole Stokes on the left wing just is not working for me. I don't really know what people see in it. I'll be totally blunt with you. I just good goal scorer and all that sort of stuff, but guys like that coming out, he's not a left-sided player, and he'll do some good little things, but I'm just not totally sold on him playing on the left side of midfield.
I don't think there's too many fans would be, Pat. I think it's obvious that Dyla likes his one up front for some mysterious and baffling reason, because I can't see it. If we were absolutely hammering teams and there was, you could see why he plays that type of formation in games, then I'd be quite happy to say this is the way forward. But for me, a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, or any combination that you've got at least two strikers up front has got to be the way you play the game in my book. I just can't figure, especially at home, when you've got, the expectation